Welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm Dr. Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, and joining me today is Arthur Meyers, the director of the Russell Public Library here in Middletown.
Russell Library by itself.
Russell Library.
The Public Library of Middletown.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got to get these things straight.
Yeah,
I'm still
yeah.
still something of a newcomer, but it's a remarkable library, I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, a pillar of an anchor institution is a term
thank
I've
you.
heard recently. Yeah. So I asked Arthur to join me today because Constitution Day is coming up on technically on September 17th, but on the 19th at the library you're going to have a program. So let's talk about it. What are you going to do that day?
Right. We're going to have a wonderful federal judge, the same person, his name is Stefan Underhill. He's the person who conducts the naturalization ceremony each year in Middletown City Hall for new citizens, and he's been doing it for a decade. And this year he commented from the podium. We had 41 new citizens from 26 countries and several hundred, family members and other citizens there. And he commented that not only was it just before July 4th, it was July 3rd this year, he said each year celebrate Constitution Day also. And then about a week later, one of our partners in that naturalization ceremony for the last decade has been the Daughters of the American Revolution. And they heard that, and they approached us, and they said, can we do something together? And their first idea was to have a display, which is static and which we can do easily. But then I thought we can have something a bit more active, more dynamic, and I approached Judge Underhill, and he responded right away. It's going to be on Wednesday, September 19th. It's at 10 a.m. in the morning. 10 a.m. may not be the best time for everybody, but it worked out in terms of his trial schedule that afternoon. So 2 days after Constitution Day, on the 19th, he will speak on the Constitution today. And I specifically asked him to talk about how it's relevant today and can help us through all of our pressing contemporary issues.
I'm going to be there.
Oh, great.
I've got it on my calendar. And it's the 225th anniversary of the Constitution. Right. I looked it up a little yesterday because I need to, you always have to remember a few new things about the Constitution, one of which is there were 39 signers, two of whom were from Connecticut.
Yeah, no women.
No surprise there. Yeah. We're slow. 225 years later, we're slow to change. I think that we have to actually take a break. I'm sorry, the radio program goes by very quickly.
Yeah.
When we come back, though, let's dig into the whole issue of the. It's kind of a knowledge deficit in America about our own government and about politics and why this is. And Senator Byrd, who made this, he put it into an omnibus act and made it a requirement of all schools in this country to celebrate Constitution Day. So we're going to be doing something here at the college too. So we'll be back in just a moment with Arthur Meyers. Well, welcome back to the Middlesex Moments radio show. Today I'm talking with Arthur Meyers, and we were just over the break talking a bit about Constitution Day in general and Senator Byrd and the world as it is, as we know it. So why are you so interested in having this program on the Constitution?
Well, because the Constitution really does shape so much of what we have as a country, but also where we're going. My first thought after one recent election was the Supreme Court effect, because the next president was about to nominate some people. That was my first thought. And we do accept in this country that the Supreme Court is the supreme law of the land. So all of this understanding, all of these individuals, we have to look at what was not only said originally by the founders that many years ago, but also what it tells us today. One example, I did a search. There's a particular program you can look up the Constitution and do a word search. Didn't find forest fire, didn't find drought, but we agree, all of us, I think, that these are national issues, that we have a responsibility beyond the state's boundaries, and in the West and everywhere else, it goes across state lines, these forest fires and droughts and so on. We have a national responsibility to deal with that. One might say it comes under national security or defense of the country. But at any rate, although right now Congress hasn't settled on a farm bill, eventually they will, and they will deal with that drought issue question. And I think these are the things that we have to wrestle with today, and we should wrestle with. And that's my immediate reason, because I don't like to hear, we hear and I don't like to hear it, that what did the founders say? What were their words, their actual words, or the originators, as sometimes we hear that phrase. It has to be relevant today, and it is. And we have to define it, and we have to interpret it. The judges have to interpret it, and the citizens have a role. I believe strongly we have a role in citizen democracy in this way.
Well, I've got so many things to ask you,
Yeah.
but citizens have a role. So I was talking with Arthur over the break about a report called The Crucible Moment, which came out earlier this year. They summarized a lot of research, and then the crucible moment is we got to do something about reviving knowledge of our Constitution and our governmental system and the governmental systems of countries around the world, nations around the world. But also we have to do whatever it takes to I guess you'd say prepare or outfit people to be active citizens, to know what to do about what does this mean to be in a democracy. The most compelling statistics is that the United States ranks 139th in voter participation of the 172 world democracies, which unbelievable. 139 out of 172. And it's so important as we look at the November election. But here's the other thing. Only 10% of citizens contacted a public official in 2009-10. It really does leave me speechless.
Yeah.
If you think about the public library as an anchor institution, which I do, and I think everybody in Middletown does, how would you cast the civic mission of the public library?
Well, in a very objective, nonpartisan way, our responsibility is to provide information. And we do that earlier, of course, through books. Now it's many formats, different media. And so as part of this Constitution Day celebration, we're actually, Judge Underhill, as you might expect, is just talking as a civic responsibility. There's no, of course, any fee or anything like that. But I did approach a number of organizations and asked if they would provide funds for our materials, books and audiovisual materials on the Constitution. And I had a great response. The first one that comes to mind right away is the Middlesex County Community Foundation, the Middlesex County Bar Association, the Friends of the Russell Library, and the Shipman and Goodwin Law Firm, headquartered in Hartford. They're all providing funds, so we are enriching our own collection. And just this past week, through various contacts, Wesleyan University's Olin Library said that they would contribute funds also. And at this point, we have best Constitution collection in the country, or at least in Connecticut. So we've gone further. We're adding materials on American values, American history, citizenship, law. And so we'll have a really firm collection for information. I'm stressing that, objective, hopefully, but information with perspectives for the public to use afterwards. That's one big way. Another way is, of course, as you said, contacting. We are very good in Russell Library and other libraries, I don't want to say just Russell Library, in telling people how they can reach public officials. Who are their public officials? Local, state, national, so they can do that contacting. We have a database of community organizations, local organizations. We also know how to reach further. So if you were to ask, well, I have a relative out west, the person needs some health care, whatever, we can provide the information on who should be contacted in terms of that locality. So that's a big role of the public library in this area.
That's fantastic to hear. I hope that our listeners are hearing that if they have a question and want an answer, really the public library is a great place to go.
And you don't have to come in. It goes without saying. We have if people are more comfortable doing web searching these days, just russelllibrary.org, and you can ask a librarian. It's not a live chat. We did have that for a period of time as part of an experiment, but at least we get back to you right away. Or you can pick up the phone, get right to our information desk. I'll just mention our information desk telephone number. There's so many, but it's 860-347-2520. 347-2520, and you get right to our information desk during library hours. But otherwise, you can leave a question as far as a callback. You can do that anytime.
I called the library yesterday and I got a voicemail, and the gentleman whose voice I was hearing had a very beautiful southern accent.
Yes.
Where's he from?
West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's our head of facilities, Danny Richmond. We used to have somebody else answering the phone, not answering the phone, recorded message. Then she retired, and we turned to Danny, and he offered, and he enjoys it thoroughly. So if we have to close for a day, as we had to close recently for 2 days until we eliminated bedbugs, and we did eliminate them, you heard his voice also.
Okay. How do you want to talk a little bit about those bedbugs? I was curious.
Gladly.
Yeah, little. Like, how in the world do you get bedbugs in the
Oh,
library?
this is an international problem.
Yes, I know it is. Yeah.
Airplane travel, hotels, movie theaters. We have people who are sitting to a great extent in the same chair for some hours because they're using the computers, doing other research. And so exactly how it came in, we also have people who will bring in a bedroll, who bring in a knapsack. We don't know how they came. We don't. What happened is the really interesting thing. We did a chronology of this recently. Right away, when we learned about it, we got on it. Truly, right away, somebody said they had a bite, and we didn't know what caused that. And then when we had something else, and we found a bedbug, and we brought in an exterminator. We have a regular exterminator, like many institutions. Every month, we have an exterminator go through the buildings. We have a few buildings at the library, both the main library, as you know, and an annex building, offices in the back. And that isn't the specialist that was needed. So the next day, after that was done, the mayor said, no, we really have to tackle this. And so we closed the library for 2 days and arranged for a particular company to come in with what they call a specialized work dog, a beautiful beagle who's trained to do only one thing, sniff out bedbugs. And as the dog and his handler, her handler, I think, walked around, he would scratch, and that alerted us there were bedbugs in that area. We had a employee of our facilities crew with a large trash bag, very large one, put all those materials in the bag, and if it was a chair, which she sniffed out, had set the chairs aside. We were closed, and then that was at 5 o'clock one day, 5 p.m. I should say, and the next morning, 8 a.m., a heat truck was brought in. The same company brought in an enclosed truck, and we threw everything in there, the materials, DVDs, books. They weren't all infected, but they were in the area.
Sure.
And the chairs and so on. Well, actually, it turned out some of the chairs, I think about 3, we actually destroyed because they had too many. But otherwise, we treated, and then that wasn't the end of it. The mayor then said, let's have this inspection on an ongoing basis, and so we arranged now for 3 times a year. And let's replace all those fabric-covered chairs, 200. So we are in the process right now, actually next, in 2 weeks at the City Council, they'll be approving funds, they'll be considering funds with the mayor's supports to provide the new chairs and extra funds for this emergency pest management company. So that's another story that's really good in terms of...
it's a silver lining, certainly.
Right.
Right. Well, let's take another break, and then we'll come back for the last portion of the show, and we'll switch over to Malcolm X. Well, I don't know how we're going to jump from this one lily pad of bedbugs to another lily pad of Malcolm X, but let's just do it. Jump into the air and land on the next pad. So you're doing a program for teens after school. So let's talk about that and what the subject of the program is.
Well, it's a teen book discussion on the autobiography of Malcolm X. I searched on the internet, and everything found on the internet is true. We know that.
Don't say that on a college campus, but yes, go ahead.
And I did not find another public library in the country which has a quotation from Malcolm on its website, and we do. And the quotation has always been very meaningful to me because I started using the autobiography of Malcolm X and reaching out to unemployed around 1967 in Baltimore when I was reaching out, when I was working there at Enoch Pratt Free Library. And I would use his story, his life story, as I was talking at that time with many people who had been recently released from prison or definitely unemployed. I thought his life story was so meaningful. So rather than me as a white guy coming into a predominantly black audience talking about Malcolm, I would just hold up his paperback book. So it occurred to me that his story could be the foundation for a book discussion group by teens. So many people don't know his life story. They know maybe some negative things, but not how he did. And it's chapter 11 in the autobiography in which he has this phrase, and we have it on our website. It's, I had never been so truly free in my life. And that, it refers to him learning to read.
Oh.
He got to prison. He was a con. He did not know how to read. And he was amazed at the bright discussions that were going on around him, people knowledgeable, and they had learned to read, and they had mastered, if not their whole life, they had certainly become scholars right there. And so he began reading. First thing, he couldn't read, so he began reading a dictionary, beginning with A, going through it. And eventually, as I say, he said, "I'd never been so truly free in my life." And this is referred to when he began to read. And I thought this could be the basis for a discussion. So I was able to hook up with Quentin Q. Phipps, who's a graduate at Middletown High School and is in Bryant University in Rhode Island. He's executive director of the Downtown Business District and Middletown City Treasurer. So beginning Tuesday afternoon, September 11th, kind of an appropriate date, September 11th,
Yes.
beginning Tuesday afternoon from 4 to 5, we will have a book discussion series in one of our meeting rooms. The Friends of the Russell Library are so positive in supporting these kinds of endeavors that they are providing free paperbacks to every teen who wants to participate. We're hoping there'll be more than 10, but we're beginning with 10, but we'll have as many as we need. And it's also co-sponsored by another organization locally called Middletown Youth Services. Justin Carbonell is the director, the Youth Services Director for the city. So we're hoping that because he was an inspiring, transformative leader, that in the 20th century, that it has meaning for us today. And I think it will. It'll be up to the kids and Q Phipps to explore it. There's 19 chapters in the book, and it may not be 19 weeks, may be able to combine them into maybe 10 weeks. But whatever it takes, or however long the kids want to talk about it, to make it relevant for today, just like the Constitution, making it relevant for today and hopefully linking up with people.
I've never been so free in my life. It's such a remarkable, wonderful thing to hear. And you know, I mean, one of the struggles we have at the college, and we have in this country, certainly it's not just our struggle, is that people don't know how to read, and often they come to college with a high school diploma in hand, and they still can't really read, you know. And they don't love to read. Yeah. So it's one thing to learn to read, but then you have to learn to love to read.
Yeah. We have one statistic in the library. I don't know all about statistics, certainly. We track electronically the circulation of materials, not who has things out, that's for sure, but how many, what kind go out, and so on. And so circulation of library materials has declined somewhat in this country, and certainly not greatly in Russell Library, but it has declined some. But there's one area over the last half dozen years that it has increased, and that's our young adult materials. Now, there's two reasons. One, surely, is because we're responding to what they want to read. We buy what they want. But also we've added a new genre that many of your students at the college know about, graphic novels.
Right.
And their history, all sorts of other subjects as well as fiction. We're responding and they are checking these materials out. And so we're very, very proud of our selectors for knowing that this is one of the areas that kids want to read. And so we're going to continue to hopefully respond to whatever needs are. And so while circulation of materials, reading may be down a little bit, the fact is that people are coming in and teens are borrowing materials.
So teens are coming to the Russell Library?
Yes. We want more.
Yes, of course.
For sure. But yes, they do come and they do read, and we have the materials for them.
You know, my 23-year-old daughter, who's now no longer a teen, is always sort of excoriating me about, my saying, what's wrong? People don't read anymore. And she says her generation reads more than we ever read. They just read different things.
Yes.
And including they're reading on their telephones, right? So, they're texting and they're writing and they're on their Facebook.
That whole ebook thing.
Yeah, and I think J.K. Rowling might have, she's the J.K. Rowling generation. Yeah. And the publishers apparently told her, the author, Rowling, no child is ever going to read a book that's 3 or 4 inches thick. And, yeah. How wrong were they about that?
About 7 volumes later or so?
I know.
During her high point of borrowing, we had long waiting lists for people and so on. In fact, a little story. We have there was a bank robbery in downtown Middletown about 8 years ago or so. The robber fled on foot, heading towards the library. And so the police came, surrounded the library. They were letting out everybody, one at a time and so on. A photo on the front page of the Middletown Press showed the police chief at that time with his gun drawn, hunkered down in front of the library, waiting or helping out. And I remember at that time saying that what he was actually saying was, "Art, give me that Harry Potter book."
That's right. It's amazing. How long have you been a librarian?
Oh, half a century.
And
I haven't done anything else except for 2 years in the Army.
And it's clearly the love of
Oh,
your
yes,
life.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
I like working with people. Other librarians have to do other things, working with materials, working with cataloging, any number of areas of library work. I couldn't think of anything that gives you as much fulfillment. The one drawback is that people move on, whether young kids or adults, and you just have to accept that. But you hope that you, in some way, help them along the way.
Of course you have. Yeah, right. What do you think about electronic books?
Well, they're with us, it's for sure. I'm not doubting at all that we'll always have the print book. I truly believe that. But yes, this is many, many years ago, Dick Tracy with his little wristwatch, being able to read things right there and so on, and communicate. I think they'll always be with us.
Well, I'm a proponent of electronic books, but that doesn't mean that I'm not a proponent of the print books,
Right.
too, the real three-dimensional, tangible books that have beautiful covers and smell.
Right.
And I've been traveling back and forth between D.C. on the train, so there are times in our lives, there are activities we're embarking upon in which an electronic book is really a better way to go. You
Right.
not
For
have
sure.
to carry it. But I realized as I was reading, I went back to read Women in Love.
By Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which I hadn't read. I read it when I
Yeah.
was probably 19 or 20,
right.
and it's a different book when you're an adult, a mature adult, I guess I am. I hope so. It's quite an experience. In any case, I wanted to pass it along to my daughter, but of course I can't because it's an electronic book, and that's a limitation of the book.
And the format isn't the same.
No, well, so I can't, you can't say, I just read this most amazing book, you should try, take it and give it back to me
Well, a
when
lot
you're
of
finished.
libraries, you can download these through the library.
I have to learn more about that myself. And I'm hoping for textbooks are ridiculously expensive.
I know.
Sometimes, especially in the sciences and the fine arts, a book can cost over $100. Don't want to inhibit people because we want them to be as free as they can possibly be. Yeah. So let's see. I want to just go back to Constitution Day is free, right?
Yes.
So 10 o'clock on the 19th
Right.
of September.
Every library program is free in Russell Library and should be in every library.
Wonderful. And then for the teens, if they're interested in joining, how are you going to recruit your teens?
Well, through QFIPS, through Justin Carbonell of Middletown Youth Services, through Middletown High School, in various ways. I just recently sent notices about this to every congregation in Middletown.
Oh, good. That's a good idea. Yeah.
So, it's up to them to disseminate it and so on. We'll have some. I also had in the Middletown Press printed a letter of mine recently about Constitution Day, but getting back to Malcolm, it has to be more one-to-one kind of contacting, and we're hoping that we'll get more than 10, but we're beginning with 10 of the books for them. And if they want copies, they can just contact me at the library, Russell Library, and it'll be their copy. They'll be able to keep it. And we also have his film, a great film by Spike Lee.
Oh, yeah.
We have it in the library, and so with Denzel Washington. So it plays a great film. So we may show that at the same time, or at one point.
I've seen that film. It's remarkable. Well, I want to thank you for being with us today, and I hope our listeners will think long and hard about the Constitution, because we want everyone in this country to treasure our democracy. But the way it works is everybody's got to pull together and do something, especially to vote. So, and I imagine the library is going to have lots of materials, not only how to register, but also about the candidates. How do you do
Sure.
that?
Well, it's ongoing.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we register people. You can register people when you come to the library. I mean, you can register to vote when you come to the library. Nearly every day I take down to City Hall the registration forms, because I go down there for the mail. And we'll have all the information, candidates. We're going to have one more thing. We're going to have a program on songs of the presidency and elections. Neely Bruce from Wesleyan is going to be leading that program, and so we'll have more information on that.
Good. Good. Sounds like the Russell Library is the place to be. Well, thanks, Arthur. This has been the Middlesex Moments radio show, and I've been visiting today with Arthur Meyers from the Russell Library. And if you are interested in learning more about the college, you can go to our website, or you can just come on up here to the campus. That would be lovely, too. But our website is mxcc.edu. I'm Anna Wasasha, president of Middlesex Community College, wishing you a good day.